The day doesn't begin with anything special. It simply opens its eyes and waits. Hours stretch quietly, without urgency, without interruption. The room stays the same. The light moves slowly across the wall. Outside, life continues at a distance, like a sound behind closed glass. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening at all. There is no rush, no task demanding attention, no heavy work, no visible struggle, just a body sitting still, passing time, scrolling moments away, staring without thinking too hard. This kind of day is often called easy. It looks like rest. It looks like freedom. But inside, something feels off. Not pain exactly, not sadness in a loud way, just a weight that doesn't match the calm surface, a tiredness that arrives without effort. Muscles haven't worked, yet they feel weak. The mind hasn't run far, yet it feels drained. It's confusing, this contrast, a quiet day paired with a heavy chest, doing nothing, yet feeling used up. The silence feels thick, not peaceful. Time passes, but it doesn't heal, it just moves. It waits there quietly, not asking for attention, not creating drama, simply existing beneath the calm surface, reminding the day that emptiness can still feel full, and still ask to be noticed without any warning. The tiredness doesn't make sense at first. It shows up without permission, without a clear reason. The body has barely moved, yet it feels as if it has carried something heavy for miles. There are no long hours to point at, no hard work to justify this feeling. Still it sits there, steady and real. The mind feels older than the day itself. Thoughts move slowly, like they've already been used too many times. Even simple moments feel demanding, not because they are difficult, but because something inside feels worn thin. It's the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from effort, but from holding. There is often an expectation that tiredness must be earned, that rest should follow action, that feeling drained should have a visible cause. When it doesn't, confusion grows. A quiet question starts forming, wondering how nothing can leave someone so empty. This is where frustration begins, soft but persistent, not loud enough to complain about, not clear enough to explain, just a sense that something is wrong, even when everything looks fine. The day stays calm, almost gentle, while the inside feels restless and dull at the same time. It's hard to talk about this kind of tiredness. It has no name that fits, no clear story to tell. So it stays inside, unshared, quietly questioning itself, trying to understand how stillness can feel so heavy, and why rest sometimes fails to bring relief. It lingers through the afternoon, stretching into evening, blurring hours together, making time feel slow and strangely exhausting, as if even waiting requires energy, and simply being awake asks more than it should on days that appear easy from the outside. There was a time when tiredness felt clear and understandable. It came at the end of long days, after movement, after effort that could be seen and felt. The body would ache, but the mind felt lighter, satisfied in a quiet way. Sleep arrived easily then, like a reward earned without question. Those days had shape. Morning led to action, action led to exhaustion, and exhaustion led to rest. Even when life was difficult, there was a simple honesty in being tired. It meant something had been given, something had been used. The weight in the body matched the story of the day. Now the memory of that kind of fatigue feels distant. The present tiredness does not follow a clear path. There is no beginning or ending to it. It exists without movement, without progress, without proof. And that difference creates a quiet ache of its own. Looking back, there is a soft nostalgia for effort that could be explained, for days when exhaustion felt deserved, almost comforting. Alongside it sits a small grief, unspoken but real. Something tangible has faded, replaced by something unseen and harder to hold. The body rests more now, yet feels heavier. The days demand less, yet take more. This contrast lingers gently, reminding the heart that not all tiredness is the same, and that losing a familiar kind of exhaustion can feel like losing a part of oneself, even when nothing obvious has changed at all. It leaves a quiet question behind, asking when effort became invisible, and how carrying unseen weight slowly replaced the simple tiredness that once followed motion, purpose, and proof, turning rest into something uncertain, unfamiliar, and strangely incomplete, without offering the same relief it used to bring to ordinary evenings and honest sleep that once felt safe inside. The heaviness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with noise or drama. It settles in quietly, like dust that gathers without being noticed. From the outside, the day still looks empty. Hands are free, time is open, nothing appears to be carried at all. Yet inside there is a constant sense of holding. Not a single clear worry, not one sharp fear, but many small things pressed together. Unfinished thoughts, old disappointments, moments that never found a place to land. They have no shape, no weight that can be measured, but they pull downward all the same. This is the hidden weight. It doesn't ask for permission before staying. It doesn't need action to exist. It lives in pauses, in silence, in the space between one thought and the next. Even when the body rests, it remains awake, quietly present. There is something strange about carrying what cannot be seen, because when there is no visible struggle, the heaviness feels undeserved. The mind looks for proof and finds none. The world sees calm and assumes ease. Only the inside knows how full it feels. So the day continues looking light, while the heart moves slowly. Nothing obvious is wrong, yet nothing feels light either. The heaviness stays hidden, unspoken, unconfirmed, but real. It asks nothing, explains nothing, and still manages to exhaust, reminding the quiet moments that emptiness and heaviness can exist together, sharing the same space, without explanation, without movement, without anyone noticing how much is being held. It stays long after the light fades, blending into evenings, making rest feel shallow, dreams feel crowded, and mornings arrive already heavy, as if the night never fully closed and the weight simply waited, patient and silent, ready to be carried again, without sound or complaint, by a heart that has grown used to holding more than it shows, more than it names, more than it understands, in quiet endurance daily. Silence is often mistaken for peace. From the outside it looks calm, even gentle, no arguments, no chaos, no demands pulling at the day, just quiet hours passing slowly, one after another, without resistance. It seems like the kind of space where rest should finally arrive. But this silence holds more than it shows. Inside it, thoughts don't disappear, they wait. Words that were never spoken stay close, repeating themselves softly. Decisions delayed for another day sit patiently, adding no noise, yet refusing to leave. Feelings without names gather in the background, unnoticed but present. Nothing happens, and that becomes the problem. Without movement, everything unfinished stays exactly where it is. The mind keeps returning to the same places, tracing the same paths, because there is nowhere else to go. Silence stops being empty and starts becoming crowded. At some point, awareness begins to form, not sudden, not dramatic, just a small understanding that quiet can still carry weight, that waiting can be tiring, that holding things in, even gently, still requires energy. This is when the confusion shifts. The exhaustion no longer feels completely mysterious. It begins to make sense in small pieces. Silence isn't restful when it's filled with unsaid thoughts and paused emotions. It becomes a container, slowly filling up, until even stillness feels heavy and the day ends without relief, not because too much happened, but because too much stayed inside, quietly asking to be noticed, moment after moment, without sound, without release. There is a tiredness that comes from carrying silence for too long, from letting it stretch across days and nights, until awareness arrives slowly, realizing that nothing happening does not mean nothing is being felt, processed, or carried inside the quiet hours alone. This realization settles gently, changing how emptiness is finally understood. The awareness brings something uncomfortable with it. Once the exhaustion begins to make sense, the mind looks for a reason and often turns inward. Quietly, without anger, it begins to assign blame. If nothing visible is being carried, then the problem must be the person carrying it. The words are soft but sharp, lazy, weak, falling behind. They appear gently, almost politely, as if they are only stating facts. There is no shouting, no harsh voice, just a steady questioning of worth, repeated in moments of stillness. This kind of self-judgment feels familiar. It has been practiced slowly over time. When effort is unseen, it feels easy to forget that it exists at all. The days look empty, so the heart assumes it has done nothing. The tiredness feels unearned, so it turns into shame. Inside there is a quiet comparison happening. Other people seem to move forward. Other lives appear full, productive, meaningful. Against that image, stillness feels like failure. Rest begins to feel like avoidance. Exhaustion feels like weakness. And yet, beneath this judgment, something continues to work. Thoughts keep circling, emotions keep processing, memories keep resurfacing. None of this effort leaves marks on the body, but it uses energy all the same. The cruelty of self-blame is subtle. It doesn't attack, it simply denies. It ignores the unseen effort and insists nothing is happening. It allows the exhaustion to exist, but refuses to honor it, leaving the heart tired twice over,
once from carrying weight, and once from believing it should not feel tired at all. This quiet habit grows strongest in silence, feeding on comparison and fear, convincing the tired mind that rest must be justified, and that unseen effort does not deserve kindness, patience, or understanding, even when it has been constant and heavy inside the quiet hours alone. When understanding finally appears, it doesn't arrive loudly. It comes as a quiet pause, a moment where the mind stops arguing and simply notices. The exhaustion has been there for a long time. It didn't begin today. It didn't come from nothing. It grew slowly, piece by piece. There is a realization that carrying doesn't always feel heavy at first. At the beginning it feels manageable. Small worries, small regrets, small emotions pushed aside because there was no time for them. Each one seemed harmless alone. Together they became something else. This is how the weight stayed hidden. It was added gently over days and months until it became normal. The body adapted, the mind adjusted, awareness stayed quiet. There was no clear moment to point to, no single reason to explain why rest stopped working. Now, looking back, it becomes easier to see. The tiredness was never about doing too little, it was about holding too much. Even in stillness, something was always being carried forward. This understanding doesn't fix anything right away, it doesn't remove the weight, but it changes how it is seen. The exhaustion feels less confusing, less shameful. It starts to feel valid. There is a relief in knowing that struggle doesn't need to be visible to be real, that effort doesn't need proof to exist. Awareness replaces blame, softly, without force, and in that quiet shift, the heart feels a little less alone with its tiredness, finally recognizing that it has been working quietly all along, even when nothing on the surface seemed to move. It understands now that exhaustion can be honest without witnesses, that weight can exist without sound. This realization settles slowly, offering permission to stop doubting every quiet moment, and to accept that being tired does not always mean something is wrong, only that something has been carried for longer than expected, without explanation, urgency, comparison, or the need to prove. After the realization settles, the quiet returns, but it feels slightly different now. The body still rests, the hours still pass gently, nothing dramatic changes on the surface, yet there is a new understanding moving underneath the stillness.
Rest has been happening all along. The body has been lying down, pausing, waiting. Time has been given space, but something inside has remained tense, holding on even while everything else stopped. This is where the difference slowly becomes clear. Stillness can give the body a break, but it does not always reach what is tired deeper inside. Emotional weight doesn't loosen just because the body is quiet. It stays alert, guarding memories, replaying moments, carrying feelings that never found release. So even while resting, something continues to work. This is not failure. It is not weakness. It is simply human. Healing moves differently than rest. It doesn't follow positions or schedules. It arrives in its own time, often unnoticed, often incomplete. Understanding this softens something inside. The exhaustion no longer feels like proof of being broken. It begins to feel like a sign of depth, of experience, of a heart that has been active even during still days. There is gentleness in recognizing that lying still is not the same as letting go, that recovery is quieter, slower, and harder to see. And in that recognition,
Self-blame loses some of its strength. The exhaustion no longer feels like personal, less shameful. It becomes part of being human, part of carrying a life that continues inside, even when the body pauses, even when nothing seems to happen, even when rest does not bring immediate relief. This understanding doesn't solve the exhaustion, but it changes how it is held, allowing compassion to replace pressure and patience to sit beside the tiredness without asking it to disappear right away. Letting the weight be real does not happen all at once. It begins quietly, with less pushing and fewer questions. The mind stops arguing with the tiredness and allows it to exist just as it is, without asking it to justify itself. For a long time there was resistance, a constant effort to shake the feeling away, to prove it wrong, to outgrow it. Fighting the weight took energy of its own. Denying it meant carrying it tighter, holding it closer, never setting it down for a moment. Now something shifts. Not relief, not happiness, just space. The weight is still there, but it is no longer treated like an enemy. It becomes something that can be acknowledged without panic, something that can be felt without judgment. In this quiet acceptance, exhaustion begins to change its meaning. It no longer feels like evidence of failure. It starts to resemble a signal, a sign that something has been felt deeply, processed slowly, carried carefully. The tiredness becomes information, not accusation. There is calm in not trying to fix what doesn't need fixing right now, in not forcing improvement, in letting the day be exactly as heavy as it feels. Shame loosens when resistance fades. Forgiveness enters gently here, not spoken, not announced, just a softer way of being with oneself, a willingness to stop fighting the tiredness and sit beside it instead, to recognize that carrying weight does not make someone weak, it makes them human. The heart rests differently when it no longer has to defend its exhaustion. The weight stays, but it hurts less when it is allowed. Acceptance doesn't remove the load, but it removes the struggle around it, creating a quiet relief that doesn't demand change, only honesty, and the courage to stop pretending that everything is light when it clearly is not. This honesty feels like breathing easier after holding same position for too long. The day comes back to where it started, quiet and unchanged. The room looks the same. The light fades slowly. Nothing has been fixed, improved, or explained, yet something inside feels different, softer, less tight than before. There is no final understanding, no clear answer waiting at the end of the day. The weight is still present, the tiredness has not disappeared, but the way it is held has changed. It no longer demands punishment or constant questioning. The mind grows quieter, not because everything is resolved, but because it stops trying to solve itself. For once there is permission to end the day unfinished, to let thoughts rest without forcing clarity, to allow emotions to remain without naming them. Self-blame loosens its grip here. In its place arrives a gentler presence, not confidence, not strength, just kindness that asks for nothing, the kind that allows exhaustion to exist without apology. Night arrives slowly. The body lies down, not to escape the weight, but to carry it with less tension. Rest becomes simpler when guilt steps aside. Sleep does not promise healing, but it offers pause. The day closes without lessons, without conclusions, only a quiet acceptance that being tired does not mean being broken,
that doing nothing can still cost something inside, and that it is enough for now to stop judging the cost. In this ending, there is no solution, only permission. Permission to be human. Permission to rest without earning it. Permission to wake tomorrow without needing to be different. The weight remains, but it feels less lonely. The quiet returns, and this time it feels a little more gentle, holding the tired heart without asking it to explain itself anymore.